The galaxy was old, very old. It had seen many races rise and fall. Some became powerful. Some disappeared without a trace. But one thing was always the same. Power decided everything. And in this galaxy, power belonged to the Zylar Dominion. They controlled hundreds of star systems. Their ships were massive. Their weapons could destroy planets. Their rule was simple: obey or be erased. Most species followed their commands. The few who didn't last long. Then came humanity, a new race, young, curious, different. Humans did not enter the galaxy with warships. They came with open hands. They offered trade. They shared technology. They offered trade. They shared technology. They helped weaker species. Many races liked them. But the Dominion did not. To them, kindness was weakness, and weakness was something to be controlled. At first, they tested humanity. Small actions. Human ships were stopped at checkpoints. Cargo was delayed for no reason. Trade routes were blocked. Humans complained, but stayed calm. They didn't fight. They tried to solve things with words. The Dominion leaders laughed. "These humans are soft," one of them said. "They will break easily." So they pushed further. A human mining station disappeared. The Dominion said it was pirates. Humans knew that was a lie. Still, they did nothing. Not yet, because humans were watching, learning, waiting. Then it happened. A colony called Nova Eden. It was peaceful, full of families, workers, children, a place far from conflict. One quiet day, without warning, the sky burned. Dominion ships appeared, massive, silent, cold. Before anyone could react, they fired. The colony had no defenses, no chance. Cities turned to ash. Oceans boiled. Millions died in minutes. No survivors. No mercy. When the Dominion was asked, they gave the same answer: a mistake. But the galaxy felt something change, because this time, humanity did not stay silent. Back on Earth, the news spread fast. Every screen, every city. People watched in shock, then anger, then something deeper, something colder. For the first time, all of humanity agreed on one thing. This could not be ignored. Inside a secure command room, world leaders and military commanders gathered. No arguments, no debates, only one question: what do we do now? Silence filled the room. Then one voice spoke, calm, steady. "We warn them." Not a request, not a negotiation, a warning. Hours later, something happened that had never happened before. Every communication system in the galaxy was interrupted. Trade networks, military channels, civil broadcasts, all replaced by one signal, one message. It came from Earth. Across thousands of worlds, beings stopped what they were doing and watched. The screen turned black. Then, a human appeared. A commander, standing still, eyes focused, voice cold. "This is Earth." No anger, no shouting. That made it worse. To the Zylar Dominion, a short pause. "You have crossed the line." Across the galaxy, silence spread. Even Dominion leaders watched. "We sought peace. We showed restraint. We tolerated your actions." Another pause. "This time longer. That ends now." The commander stepped closer. "This is your first and final warning." The screen went dark. The message ended. And for a moment, the entire galaxy was quiet. Then, the Dominion laughed. In their grand halls, leaders smiled. Some even mocked the humans. "A warning?" one said. "From them?" Another laughed. "They still think words matter." To them, nothing had changed. Humans were still weak, still afraid, still harmless. They ignored the warning. They continued as before. But something strange began to happen. Human ships disappeared. Not destroyed, not lost, just gone. Trade stopped. Communication slowed. Earth became quiet. Too quiet. Too quiet. Other species started to notice. Where are the humans? What are they doing? No one had answers. And that made it worse. Because in the history of the galaxy, silence before action always meant one thing. Something was coming. Days passed, then weeks. The Dominion did not stop. In fact, they became more aggressive, because they believed they had already won. Then came the second mistake. Another human outpost was attacked, smaller than Nova Eden, but still full of innocent lives. Again, no warning. Again, no mercy. But this time something was different, because as the Dominion ships left the burning colony, they detected something, a signal. Weak at first, then clear, a human transmission. Not loud, not angry, just one sentence. Cold, final, warning acknowledged. The Dominion ships laughed again. They thought it meant nothing. They were wrong. Very, very wrong. Because far away, in the dark space between stars, human fleets were already moving, silent, invisible, ready. And this time, there would be no second warning. After the second of docking, the galaxy waited for Earth to answer, but Earth said nothing. No angry speech came. No fleet was sent in public. No ambassador stood before the Galactic Council. Nothing. That silence began to spread fear faster than any weapon. Many alien races had seen war before. They knew what rage looked like. They knew what panic looked like. But this was different. Humanity was not shouting. Humanity was not begging for support. Humanity was not asking the galaxy to punish the Zylar Dominion. Humanity had gone quiet, and quiet enemies were often the most dangerous. Across the border systems, trade stations waited for human cargo ships that never arrived. Mining colonies called old human contacts and got no answer. Friendly species sent messages to Earth, hoping to calm the situation, but most received only one short reply. Stand clear of Dominion space, no explanation, no details, just that. Those 4 words reached many worlds, and each time they were read, a chill ran through the room. On one of the outer worlds, a small avian species called the Tyrell gathered in their council chamber. They had traded with humans for years. They knew humans as builders, teachers, and explorers. One of their elders looked at the latest human message and lowered his feathers in worry. "They are not asking for help," he said. Another elder nodded slowly. "No, they are warning us to move away." That frightened them more than anything else. Back in Dominion space, however, no fear could be seen. The Zylar leaders still acted as if nothing important had changed. Their great halls shined with gold light. Their officers marched through crystal corridors. Their news channels mocked Earth day and night. "Humanity hides behind empty words," one Dominion speaker announced to millions. Their so-called final warning was nothing more than noise. Crowds in Dominion cities laughed. Military officers made jokes over drinks. Young pilots boasted that they would enjoy crushing the first human fleet they saw. But not everyone laughed. Some older commanders remembered history better than others. They had seen smaller powers act with sudden force after long silence. They had seen species learn, adapt, and strike where it hurt most. One old Dominion admiral stood before a star map and frowned. "Humans are not acting like prey," he told his superiors. A high minister waved a hand in annoyance. "Because they are emotional. That is all." The admiral did not move. "No. Emotional species shout. They make public threats. They seek allies. Humans are doing none of that." The minister's eyes hardened. "Are you afraid of them, Admiral?" The old officer answered with calm honesty. "I am afraid of any enemy that chooses silence over pride." The minister dismissed him. That was the third mistake. Far from Dominion eyes, deep under Earth's oceans, inside mountains, and in shipyards hidden behind moons, humanity was moving with terrifying focus. The whole planet had changed. Factories never slept. Assembly lines worked day and night. Old military bunkers were opened. Long-hidden plans were pulled from locked vaults. Engineers, coders, shipbuilders, and tacticians worked together without rest. Nations that had once argued over borders and trade now shared everything. Loss had united them in a way peace never could. For the first time in generations, Earth moved with one mind. At the center of this effort was a fleet program so secret that even many human officers did not know its full size. It had been built slowly over the years, piece by piece, in case the day ever came when peace failed. Now that day had come. Massive black warships rested inside hidden docks. Their surfaces were dark and smooth, built to scatter scans and light. They were not decorated like Dominion ships. They carried no bright banners, no gold edges, no signs of pride. They looked like purpose, made solid. Inside one vast shipyard near Jupiter, thousands of workers stood beneath a half-finished battleship, unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Its body stretched like a moving city. Rail cannons rested under armored plates. Drone bays lined its sides. Deep in its center, A new combat intelligence system ran battle simulations every second. A young technician stood beside an older engineer and stared up at the vessel. "Is it true?" the technician asked quietly, "that this fleet was designed years ago?" The engineer kept his eyes on the ship. Humans hoped never to use it. But now? The older man finally looked at him. "Now we make sure Nova Eden was the last human colony to die helpless." The words spread through the dock like steel. Elsewhere, on Luna and Mars, military academies changed overnight. Cadets trained on new tactics. Commanders studied Dominion patterns. Human analysts gathered every bit of data from old trade routes, public transmissions, and past skirmishes. They mapped Dominion pride as carefully as their weapon system. That was one thing humans understood better than most species. Pride could blind. The Dominion loved power, but they also loved looking powerful. Their biggest stations were built in obvious places. Their command chains were rigid. Their officers followed ranks so closely that they often delayed action while waiting for permission. Humans saw weakness in that. A human strategist, Commander Elias Voss, stood before a room full of officers and pointed at a moving star map. "The Dominion think size means safety," he said. He touched 3 glowing sectors. "These fleets support each other in theory. In reality, distance and pride slow them down." A woman at the table leaned forward. "Then we cut the chain?" Voss nodded. "No speeches. No long war. We remove their eyes, their supply, and their confidence. We make them feel what they made others feel." Another officer spoke carefully. "And civilians?" The room went still. Voss answered at once. "Protected when possible. We are not them." That mattered. Humanity was angry, but it had not forgotten itself. The goal was not slaughter. The goal was consequence. The Dominion had to understand, in the clearest way possible, that mercy should never be mistaken for weakness. In orbit above Earth, the first groups of the hidden fleet began to gather. They arrived without public signals, emerging from shadowed routes and secured gates. Destroyers, carriers, stealth corvettes, drone tenders, heavy cruisers. Some ships were old and upgraded. Others were entirely new, built for one brutal purpose. No music played when they formed. No cheering crowds watched from below. There was only work. Pilots checked weapon locks. Marines loaded boarding craft. AI systems linked across battle groups. Captains read the same sealed order and signed it in silence. One sentence stood at the top of every page. No second warning. At the same time, a final diplomatic channel remained open for exactly one reason. Earth wanted proof that it had offered every chance to stop. A last message was sent to the Dominion High Court. No anger, no threats, only a record. Withdraw from human territory. Submit those responsible for the destruction of Nova Eden and the Second Colony. End all aggression now. This channel will not remain open. The reply came 12 hours later. It contained a laugh track, a staged image of burning human flags, and one line from the Dominion, "Make us." When that reply arrived, no one in Earth Command shouted, no one cursed. Commander Voss read it once, closed the file, and looked around the room. "Record the response," he said. An officer nodded. "Recorded." Voss drew one slow breath, then begin. Across hidden shipyards and dark fleets, a single order moved like lightning. Engines awakened. Weapon cores charged. Stealth screens rose. On Earth, city lights stayed calm, but everyone could feel it. Families watched the stars from rooftops and windows. Workers paused in factories. Children noticed adults growing quiet. No one knew exactly what was happening in space, but everyone understood one thing. Humanity had made its choice. In the void between systems, the first strike group slipped forward. They did not use common lanes. They moved through dark paths mapped over years by explorers and scouts. Their engines burned low. Their signals vanished into background noise. They were not coming to threaten. They were coming to end the illusion that Earth could be hurt without cost. Days later, on the edge of Dominion territory, a listening post picked up a strange reading. It lasted only a moment. One operator frowned and leaned closer to the screen. "Did you see that?" he asked. His partner shook his head. "Probably static." The first operator was not convinced. The reading had looked like a formation. Small, fast, then gone. He filed the report. It was ignored. A few hours later, a Dominion patrol fleet near the border sent a routine check-in. then another, then silence. At first, no one worried. Patrol fleets went dark sometimes during scan storms or while passing near mineral clouds. But this silence lasted too long. A second patrol was sent to investigate. It never reported back. Now concern began to rise. Not fear yet, just concern. At a Dominion command station, officers searched their maps and asked for updates from nearby sectors. Signals crossed, officers argued, and sensor teams dug through static. Finally, one frightened analyst looked up from his screen. "Sir," he whispered, "I have debris." The room turned. "From which patrol?" The analyst swallowed hard. "Both." A terrible quiet followed. The station commander stepped closer. "Weapons fire." The analysts zoomed in on the wreckage. Hull fragments floated cold and broken. Entire sections had been cut apart with brutal precision. "Yes, sir." "Enemy identification?" The analyst's hands shook over the console. "There are traces of human alloy signatures." The room froze. The commander stared at the screen as if it might change if he willed it to. "Impossible," one officer said. But deep down, none of them believed that word anymore. Because in the darkness, just beyond their scans, unseen human ships were already moving again. And the silence that had covered Earth for so long was finally ending. Not with a speech, not with a warning, but with the first shadow of consequence. The Dominion did not panic at first. They refused to. Losing 2 patrol fleets was unusual, but not impossible. Space was dangerous. Accidents happened. Pirates existed. Strange anomalies appeared without warning. That is what they told themselves. That is what they wanted to believe. But deep inside their command systems, something felt wrong. Because both fleets had disappeared in the same region, and both showed signs of the same kind of damage. Clean, precise, deliberate. That was not an accident. That was not pirates. That was something far more dangerous. Still, the Dominion leaders chose pride over caution. A large fleet was ordered to investigate. 50 warships, heavily armed, confident. They moved toward the border of human space, expecting to find wreckage and maybe a small hidden enemy force. They did not expect what was waiting for them. Far away, hidden in the dark between stars, a human strike group watched. They had been there for hours. Silent, invisible. Their ships were almost impossible to detect. Heat levels low, signals masked, movement slow and controlled. Inside the command ship, Captain Erin Hale stood with calm focus. She did not speak much. She did not need to. Her crew already knew the mission. On her screen, the Dominion fleet appeared. Large, bright, unaware. A young officer beside her whispered, "They're not even scanning properly." Captain Hale nodded slightly. "They don't think we're here." Another officer asked, "Do we engage now?" Hale waited. She studied the formation. The Dominion ships were spread wide. Their command ship was at the center. Defense ships on the edges. A strong formation against a normal enemy. But humans were not fighting a normal war. Hale spoke quietly. "Mark targets." Lights appeared across the display. Every Dominion ship was tagged. Every weakness mapped. Weapons locked. "Prepare strike pattern 1, Hale ordered. Her crew moved fast. No panic, no noise. Only focus. Missile systems armed. Rail cannons aligned. Drone bays opened slowly. Everything ready. The Dominion fleet continued forward. Still unaware. Still confident. Then Captain Hale gave the command. "Execute." The attack began in silence. No warning signal. No announcement. Just action. From the darkness, human ships moved like shadows. Fast. Precise. Deadly. Before the Dominion fleet could react, the first explosions hit. 3 ships were destroyed instantly. Their shields didn't even activate in time. "What?" a Dominion officer shouted as alarms filled their bridge. "Enemy contact," another yelled. But it was already too late. Human missiles struck from angles they weren't watching. Railgun rounds tore through armor like it wasn't there. Drone swarms flooded their defenses, targeting weapons and engines. The Dominion tried to respond, but confusion spread faster than commands. "Where are they? I can't lock on. They're everywhere." Their sensors struggled to track the human ships because the humans weren't fighting in straight lines. They moved unpredictably, changing speed, changing direction, attacking, then vanishing. Captain Hale watched the battle without emotion. "Target their command ship," she said. A group of human ships shifted position instantly, focused fire. Within seconds, the Dominion command ship lost power. Its shields collapsed, its weapons went silent. Command disabled, an officer confirmed. Hale nodded once. Continue. The battle did not last long. It felt long to the Dominion. But in reality, it was over in minutes. Ship after ship was destroyed. The few that tried to escape found their engines disabled. The ones that fought harder were eliminated faster. There was no chaos on the human side. No shouting, no mistakes. Every move was planned, every second used. Finally, silence returned. Where the Dominion fleet once stood, only debris remained, floating, burning, broken. Inside the human command ship, no one cheered. No one celebrated. Captain Hale looked at the remains and spoke one line. Send confirmation. A signal was transmitted. Short, clear. First strike complete. Back in Dominion space, the message reached their command network. At first, they didn't understand. Then their reports arrived. Fleet lost. No survivors. No clear enemy visual. Just one detail repeated in every data fragment. Human signatures confirmed. For the first time, the Dominion stopped laughing. Panic began to grow. Slow at first, then faster. Commanders demanded answers. How did this happen? Where did they come from? Why didn't we detect them? Why didn't we detect them? No one had answers, because they had made one critical mistake. They thought humans would fight like everyone else. But humans had changed the rules. More reports came in. A supply station, gone. A communication relay, destroyed. A defense platform, silent. Each attack was fast, clean, unstoppable. And always the same pattern. No warning, no survivors. No trace left behind except destruction. Other alien races watched in fear. Across the galaxy, whispers spread. The humans have begun. They are attacking the Dominion. They are winning. A small trade world shut down its ports. A neutral species moved its fleets away from Dominion space. Even powerful civilizations started to reconsider their alliances because something impossible was happening. The Dominion was losing. Inside one Dominion war room, the old admiral from before stood in silence. He stared at the battle reports, his face calm, but his eyes serious. They told us, he said quietly. No one replied. They gave us a warning. A younger officer spoke nervously. It was just words. The admiral turned slowly. No, he said. It was a promise. Back in deep space, Captain Hale received new orders. She read them once, then looked at her crew. We moved to Phase 2. An officer asked, more strikes? Hale answered simply, bigger ones. Human fleets across different sectors began to move. Not randomly, not wildly. Every target was chosen carefully. Every attack had purpose. They were not just destroying ships. They were breaking the Dominion system, cutting supply lines, destroying communication, creating fear, because humans understood something important. War was not just about weapons. It was about control, and the Dominion was starting to lose it. At the edge of one Dominion core system, a massive defense station stood. It had never been attacked before. It was too strong, too protected, too important. Dominion officers believed it was untouchable. Then, human ships appeared. Not many, but enough. They did not rush. They did not hesitate. They attacked. And for the first time in Dominion history, that station fell. The galaxy watched in shock. Because now it was clear. This was not a small conflict. This was not revenge. This was something much bigger. Humanity was not reacting anymore. They were taking control. And far away, on Earth, people looked at the stars again. But this time, there was no fear. Only quiet understanding. Because everyone knew. The warning had been given. The line had been crossed. And now, the consequences had begun. The galaxy had seen war before. But not like this. This war did not begin with loud speeches. It did not grow slowly. It did not follow the old rules. It moved fast, too fast, and everywhere it touched the result was the same, human victory. At first, many species did not believe the reports. They thought it was exaggeration or propaganda. But then, the evidence became impossible to ignore. Dominion fleets were disappearing. One by one, entire sectors went silent. Trade routes that were once protected by Dominion warships were now empty, abandoned, broken, and in their place, there was only fear. On a neutral station called Careth Point, leaders from different species gathered. The station was usually full of noise traders, travelers, diplomats. But now, it was quiet, too quiet. In a large meeting chamber, representatives sat around a glowing table. No one smiled. No one spoke at first. Finally, one of them broke the silence. A tall, thin being from the Volari spoke in a low voice. "Is it true?" A smaller, armored species answered, "Yes." Another voice joined in. "They destroyed 3 Dominion fleets in less than a week. A fourth added, and a core defense station." That made the room go still, because everyone knew what that meant. If a core station could fall, then nothing was safe. One of the older representatives leaned forward slowly. "We all saw the warning," he said. "They told the Dominion to stop." A younger diplomat shook his head. "No one thought they would actually do this." The older one replied quietly, "That was our mistake." Across the galaxy, the same realization spread. Humans had changed. They were no longer the peaceful newcomers. They were something else now, something focused, something dangerous. In Dominion space, the situation was worse. Panic had begun, not openly, not officially, but it was there. Officers spoke in lower voices. Commanders checked reports twice. Ships stayed closer to home, because every time a fleet moved out alone, it didn't come back. Inside a Dominion command center, tension filled the air. Screens showed damaged systems, lost fleets, and broken defenses. An officer shouted, "We need to regroup all forces. We can't keep losing ships like this." Another replied, "If we pull back, we show weakness." A third voice cut in, "We are already losing." The room turned silent, because it was true. The old admiral stood once again before the star map, but now his warning had changed. "They are not just attacking," he said. "They are controlling the battlefield." A younger officer asked, "What does that mean?" The admiral pointed at several sectors. "Look carefully." The officers leaned closer. "These attacks are not random," the admiral continued. "They are removing our support." He tapped the map again. Supply routes gone. Communication relays destroyed. Outer fleets isolated. One officer whispered, "They're cutting us apart." The admiral nodded. "Yes, and we helped them do it." That was the truth the Dominion didn't want to accept. Their own system, their own pride, had made them weak. They were too spread out, too confident, too slow to change, and humans were using that against them, perfectly. Meanwhile, human fleets continued their advance, not rushing, not stopping, each move calculated, each strike precise. Captain Erin Hale stood once again on her command bridge. Her fleet had just completed another mission. Another Dominion stronghold, gone. An officer approached her. "Captain, we are receiving new data." Hale looked at the screen. "Show me." The officer brought up a map. Dominion forces were starting to gather, pulling back, grouping together, trying to defend. Hale studied it for a moment. "They're adapting," the officer said. "Yes," Hale replied calmly, "but too late." A younger crew member asked carefully, "Captain, do they understand what's happening?" Hale paused, then answered simply, "They understand. They are losing." Across different systems, more species made choices. Some closed their borders. Some moved away from Dominion space. Some quietly reached out to Earth, not for alliance, but for safety. Because now, one truth was clear to everyone. You did not want to be on the wrong side of humanity. On a distant world, a small civilization sent a message to Earth. It was simple, respectful. "We recognize your strength. We will not stand against you." The reply came quickly. "Then you have nothing to fear." That message spread, and it changed everything. Because humans were not attacking everyone. Only the Dominion. Only those responsible. Only those who ignored the warning. That made their actions even more powerful. This was not chaos. This was controlled. Back in Dominion space, fear finally reached the highest levels. The High Court gathered an emergency session. For the first time in centuries, they looked uncertain. One leader spoke loudly. "We must strike Earth directly." Another argued, "We need to defend what we have left." A third shouted, "We underestimated them." The room filled with tension, arguments, blame, confusion. Then the old admiral stepped forward and spoke one sentence. "We are no longer in control." Silence. Heavy. Unavoidable. The High Court did not want to hear it, but they could not deny it anymore. The humans had taken control of the war. Every move, every battle, every result. Still, the Dominion had one advantage left: numbers. They still had a massive fleet. If they gathered everything, if they attacked together, maybe just maybe, they could still win. So they made a decision, a dangerous one, a final one. They would gather their full strength, every ship, every weapon, every commander, and they would strike at Earth itself, not small battles, not scattered fights. One massive attack, one final war. The order was sent across Dominion space. Fleets turned, ships gathered, weapons prepared. This would be their last chance. Far away, human intelligence detected the movement. Data flowed into command centers. Fleet positions updated. Predictions calculated. Commander Voss studied the map in silence. "They're coming," an officer said. "Yes," Voss replied. "All of them." Another officer asked, "Do we stop them early?" Voss shook his head slowly. "No." The room turned. "No?" Someone repeated. Voss looked at the map again. "Let them come." The officers didn't understand at first, but then they realized. Humans were not afraid. Not anymore. Back on Earth, the sky looked calm, peaceful. But above the atmosphere, thousands of human warships were already in position, waiting, prepared, silent. And for the first time, humanity was not reacting. They were ready, ready to end it. Commander Voss gave the final preparation order. "Set defensive formation." An officer asked quietly, "This is it, isn't it?" Voss nodded. "Yes." Across space, the Dominion fleet moved closer, massive, endless, powerful. They believed this would be their victory, their final answer. But they had forgotten something very important. Humans had already given their final warning, and now there was nothing left to say. The Dominion fleet moved like a storm. Across space, their ships gathered into one massive force. Thousands of warships, destroyers, carriers, heavy cruisers, planet-breaker cannons. It was the largest fleet the galaxy had seen in centuries. As they moved toward Earth, stars disappeared behind their formation. To them, this was victory. One final attack. One final show of power. And humanity would fall. Inside the Dominion flagship, the High Commander stood tall, confident, cold. "This ends today," he said. Around him, officers nodded. "This time we crushed them completely." No one spoke of fear. No one mentioned the lost fleets, because this was their last chance, and they believed their numbers would win. Far ahead of them, Earth waited. In orbit around the blue planet, human fleets were already in position, not scattered, not hidden, waiting. Thousands of ships formed layers of defense, each one placed with precision, each one ready. Commander Elias Voss stood in the main command center, his face calm, his eyes focused. On the screen before him, the Dominion fleet appeared, large, endless. An officer spoke quietly. "They've committed everything." Voss nodded. "Good." Across all human ships, one message was sent. Short, clear, final. "All units, prepare for engagement." No cheering followed, no speeches, only silence. Because everyone understood, this was the moment. The Dominion fleet entered Earth's system. Slow at first, then faster. Their weapons powered up, energy levels rising, target locks forming. They expected fear. They expected humans to panic. But instead, they saw something strange. Human ships did not move. They did not retreat. They did not break formation. They waited. The Dominion commander frowned. "Why are they not reacting?" An officer answered. "Maybe they are frozen." The commander smiled slightly. "Then we end this quickly." He raised his hand, prepared a fire. At that exact moment, a signal reached his bridge, a human transmission. The commander hesitated. "Play it." The screen changed. Commander Voss appeared, calm, still, unshaken. "This is your final chance." The Dominion officers laughed, but Voss continued. "You were warned." Silence. "Now you face the consequences." The transmission ended. The Dominion commander's face hardened. Fire. The first wave of Dominion weapons lit up space. Beams of energy, missiles, shock weapons, all aimed at Earth's defenses. But before they could reach, human ships moved. For the first time, humanity attacked at full strength. Thousands of human ships shifted at once. Perfect coordination, perfect timing. Defense grids activated. Shields absorbed the first wave. Then, human weapons answered. Railguns fired. Massive projectiles crossed space at impossible speed. Dominion ships exploded before they could react. Missile swarms launched. Hundreds, thousands, each one guided, each one precise. Drone fleets spread like clouds, attacking engines, disabling weapons, breaking formations. The Dominion fleet tried to respond, but something was wrong. Their formations broke. Their commands slowed, because human attacks were everywhere at once. "Flank them," a Dominion officer shouted, but the flank was already under attack. "Focus fire on their center," but the center had already moved. "They're predicting us," someone yelled. Inside human command, data flowed perfectly. Every Dominion move, already expected, already countered. Commander Voss watched without emotion. "Phase 2, he said. Human carrier ships opened. From them, something new emerged. Advanced strike drones. Faster, smarter, more aggressive. They moved in perfect patterns, cutting through Dominion defenses like blades. The Dominion fleet began to collapse. Not slowly, not evenly, but suddenly. Sections of their force disappeared, exploded, disabled, lost. The High Commander gripped his console. "This is impossible." "Lost." The High Commander gripped his console. "This is impossible." An officer shouted, "We're losing control." Another yelled, "Communications are down in multiple sectors," because humans had done more than attack. They had broken the Dominion's ability to fight together. Each part of their fleet was now alone, isolated, vulnerable. "Retreat," one officer shouted. But it was too late. Human ships were already behind them, cutting escape paths, closing every exit. For the first time, the Dominion understood. They were not here to win. They were here to lose. Back on Earth, people watched the battle from safe feeds. No panic, no fear, only silence. Because they knew this was justice. In space, the battle reached its peak. The Dominion flagship tried to escape. Engines at full power, shields failing. Captain Aaron Hale's fleet moved into position. "Target locked," her officer said. Hale nodded. "End it." A single coordinated strike hit the flagship. Direct, precise, final. The massive ship broke apart, slowly, then completely. Across the battlefield, the Dominion fleet fell silent. Ships drifted, weapons powered down. Survivors sent surrender signals. It was over. Inside human command, no one celebrated. No cheering. No one victory cries. Commander Voss looked at the screen, then spoke quietly. "Cease fire." Human ships stopped immediately. No hesitation. The battlefield remained silent, broken, still. The Dominion had lost, not just the battle, but their power, their control, their belief that they could never be challenged, and all because they ignored one warning. Back on Earth, the stars looked different now, not because they had changed, but because humanity had. For the first time, the galaxy understood. Humans did not want war, but when pushed too far, they did not lose. They ended it. The battle was over, but the silence that followed felt even heavier. Across space, broken ships drifted slowly. Pieces of the Dominion fleet floated like shadows. Weapons were quiet. Engines were dead. Only small signals remained. Surrender signals. Human ships stayed in position, watching, waiting. But they did not fire again. They did not chase. They did not destroy what was left, because the message had already been delivered. Inside the human command center, Commander Elias Voss stood still. He looked at the battlefield one last time, then spoke calmly. "Begin recovery operations." An officer nodded. "Rescue teams deployed." Another asked carefully, "What about Dominion survivors?" Voss answered without hesitation, "We save who we can." That surprised many, even some human officers. After everything that had happened, after Nova Eden, after all the destruction, humans were still choosing mercy. Rescue ships moved out. Human crews pulled survivors from damaged vessels. Dominion soldiers who expected death found something else: help, medical care, silence. No anger, no revenge. Only action. No revenge. Only action. One injured Dominion officer looked at the human medic treating him, confused. "Why are you helping us?" he asked weakly. The medic didn't stop working. "Because we're not you," he said simply. That answer spread, through reports, through the galaxy. Back in Dominion space, what remained of their leadership gathered, not in pride, but in defeat. The high court chambers were quiet, no arguments this time, no shouting, only reality. One of the leaders spoke slowly. "We have lost." No one disagreed. Another added, "We cannot fight them again." The old admiral stood once more, but this time his voice was softer. "They warned us," he said, "and we ignored them." The room stayed silent, because now they understood. A decision was made, the hardest one they had ever made. They would surrender. A message was prepared, not proud, not strong, but honest. For the first time in their history, the signal was sent to Earth and to the entire galaxy. Back on Earth, the message arrived. Commander Voss read it carefully, then passed it to the council. No one smiled. No one celebrated, because this was never about victory. It was about consequence. The Dominion message was simple. We surrender. We accept responsibility. We will stand down. After a long silence, Earth responded. Once again, every system in the galaxy was interrupted. Every screen changed. Every world watched. The same human commander appeared, calm, still, but different now. Not angry, not cold, something else. Something stronger. "This is Earth." The galaxy listened. No one laughed this time. "We did not choose this war." A pause. "We asked for peace. We gave a warning. It was ignored." Silence filled every world. "Let this be understood." The commander stepped slightly forward. "Humanity does not seek control. We do not seek destruction, but we will never accept being treated as weak again." The message was clear, simple, unavoidable. Stand in peace, and we stand with you. Stand against us. A short pause. "And you already know the outcome." The screen went dark. No one spoke, because nothing needed to be said. The war was over, but something much bigger had changed. Across the galaxy, new thoughts began to form. New understanding, new respect. Humans were no longer seen as the new species, the soft ones, the peaceful traders. Now they were known as something else. The species that gave one warning and meant it. On distant worlds, leaders changed their policies. Old alliances were reconsidered. New ones were formed. Some races moved closer to Earth, seeking friendship, seeking friendship. Others stayed far away, careful, respectful. But no one ignored humanity anymore. Back on Earth, life slowly returned to normal. Cities stayed bright. People went back to work. Children played again. But something had changed inside them. A quiet strength, a shared memory. They had seen what happens when peace fails. And they had proven something to the entire galaxy. That humanity was not weak. They were patient. And patience was not the same as surrender. Far above Earth, human fleets remained in orbit. Not as a threat, but as a reminder. A reminder that peace is protected, not given. Captain Erin Hale stood on her bridge, looking out at the stars. An officer beside her asked, "Do you think they'll try again?" Hale was silent for a moment. Then she answered, "No." "Why?" Hale looked toward the distant systems. "Because now they understand." And across the galaxy, they did. Because one truth had become impossible to ignore. Humanity gives warnings, but only once.